Today we're going to talk about the process and the forms to use as a landlord to notify your tenants of a rental increase. This is Curbside with Crystal. Now, if you've ever seen any of my videos, you know I'm a big fan of investment properties, and myself and my husband certainly own a couple of these. It's a great way to build wealth and increase your portfolio. Now, it is important as a landlord, as with any business, to know your rights and your responsibilities and the proper processes to doing different things. So today we're going to go over the process of increasing rent and providing your tenants with the notice. So what I typically like to do, I like to keep all of my rental increases on the same sort of schedule. It doesn't always work out, but I always try to keep them on January 1st. It's just easier for me to manage. You may do the same thing, or you may be on a different schedule, or everybody is on a completely different schedule. So let's talk about 2024. So they've announced the increase for rent increases for 2024, and it's 2.5%. So that was the same as this year in 2023. So how do you notify your tenants that you are increasing the rent? So first of all, you have to give your tenants 90 days notice. So for myself, and for those of you who sort of follow that January 1st rule, that deadline is coming up. So I try to get my notices out before October 1st. I mean, typically it's the 3rd or the 4th if you're counting exactly 90 days, but I get my notices out to my tenants on October 1st that effective January 1st, their rent increase is going to be in place. So you have to do this on the designated form. So in Ontario, that form is an N1. And so if you just Google landlord forms or landlord and tenant board, you can find this form. Now it's really important that you fill this form out properly, do the math, and go through the steps. If you're having any difficulty, by all means hire a paralegal, or if you just have a simple question, feel free to give me a call. So first of all, you need to give 90 days notice. Second of all, it needs to be on the proper form, that N1. And the third rule is you can only increase the rent once every 12 months. So once a year, basically, you can provide the tenant with an increase notice. So there are some exceptions to the 2.5% rule. So if the rental property was built, or the unit was built after November of 2018, it is not subject to the rent control rates. So that means as a landlord, if you've got a newer rental unit, you could increase the rent really up to anything. But be careful here, because you may run into a situation where the tenants just say, you know what, I'm not putting up with this, I'm going to move on. So you may have a revolving door of tenants. But if your unit does fall under this rule, that it's not subject to rent control, you use a different form, and that form is N2. Now, another rule is, how do you actually get the form to your tenant? So there's a couple different ways that you're allowed to do this. So first of all, you can hand it right to the tenant and have a conversation with them. You can leave it in their mailbox or where their mail would usually be delivered. So perhaps that's a mail slot in the door or something like that. You could place the notice under the door. Or if you live a long time ago, you could fax it to them if they have a fax machine. You could also send it by courier or by mail, but you have to allow an additional 5 days to that 90 days notice. Now, you are not allowed to post the notice on the door, so don't tape it to the door. Follow one of the prescribed ways that I discussed on delivering the notice. So once again, I mean, as a landlord, your costs increase every year, and typically they increase far more than what you're allowed to raise the rent. So I really encourage people to do the rental increases every year. Again, you're not going to keep up with your increase in costs, but what it's going to do is it's going to keep your rents closer, or as close as you can possibly get, to market rent. So in a situation where you are going to sell the unit, it's going to be more appealing to the next owner. Once again, it's Crystal Powell, real estate broker with Remax Jazz, serving Durham region and the Quinte area. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, have any questions about the market or all things real estate, just call Crystal. Talk to you soon.